So yeah, I was asked to give a bit of an introduction, so I will try to give a bit of a flavor of how the Friend Water Program is part of the larger IHP Phase 9, but also specifically referring to how we are managing the program at the moment, and where I think there is space for your friend group to really play a more active role maybe in this space. So I think I'm just gonna look a little bit at the way we are managing and reporting so that also activities you're doing can be actively involved and reported as a part of IHP 9. So I'm going to keep it very short on what IHP 9 is. I think most of you know what UNESCO IHP is about. It's an Intergovernmental Hydrological Program. It's basically a connection between the science and the policy making, if you want, involving both scientists like you, but also involving governmental institutions, hydromet agencies, any other actors which are active in the water sector, and see how we can really use science to improve the way water is managed. So currently, IHP 9 has defined 5 priority areas, and this has been defined by all the member states of UNESCO. And in this sense, this is kind of a program that is supported as you want by most of the world. So there is different areas around science, research, and innovation. Water education is a key element, bridging the data knowledge gap, but also looking at integrated water resource management under conditions of climate change or global change in a bit more broader terms, and then also looking at water governance. So this has been kicked off about 2 years ago in April 2022. And this actually leads us until 2029. So we have still quite a few years to go, another 6 years to go to implement that. It's quite ambitious, and it has been developed around 34 outputs. So each of those priority areas have a set of outputs, and I'm not going to go in detail on each of them. But in fact, many of the outputs that are mentioned are also relevant for Friend Water. In principle, also, there is a lot of key activities under them, which we can refer to and see what activities that you're working on that will be discussed today could fit under this kind of framework. So this is just very brief, and I'm not going to go in detail, but basically we're in a 2-year cycle, and we're just ended that 2-year cycle. So every 2 years, we take stock of which activities have been implemented, and we look at what has been produced, what is the outcome, and what needs to be adjusted so that we can actually improve or adjust some of the activities in a way that we can ensure that by the end of this phase, we actually reach the objectives that we have put forward at the beginning. So we're basically now in the first, as we call it, biennium, after the first biennium. So we take stock, we review, we discuss, and we basically look at the gaps and the review of priorities. In this sense also, I think I'm there. There is this discussion about how we can use the flagship initiatives in a more effective way to really deliver this program. And this is also something I will talk about. But just to highlight how it works in practice it means we do a planning exercise where we basically look at what are the activities we plan to do this biennium, next biennium, and so on. And that will be used to report and see, okay, did we deliver on those plans? And how many member states have been reached? What has been the impact? How many products have we developed, like papers or conference proceedings, or how many people have been trained? So we want to also track the progress and impact. And I see some of our colleagues like Hani have been looking at our previous phase, IHP 8, and how difficult it has been to really track progress, because this information wasn't collected from all the activities which we're doing, which was then making it very hard to really track progress and see if we achieve those objectives. So we want to do things differently this time. And of course, it's a learning curve. We'll see what we need to adjust, but at least we allow people to go and report activities. And some of you have been very active the last few weeks, helping to get some of those activities you've been involved in to be reported. So thanks for that. And then just to say, okay, this is just an example of some of the outputs, so you can have a look about how that looks. But basically, when we start planning, what we try to identify as kind of activities, what is the implementation type? Is it case studies? Is it a publication? Is it this? Is it that? who is the focal point institution and the member state that may be supporting that. So that can be something we can also do for our flagship initiatives such as FRIEND, and that of course become then part of this larger effort that we're doing on capturing our intentions of delivery on this program, but also capturing the reporting after the activity is been done. And one of the examples we used actually as to kick off this phase was, as you know, Andrew, was the reporting on the Dakar meeting, the international conference on FRIEND, which was an example of an activity that is benefiting many member states, but also ticks several boxes. Of course, we had an awareness raising, we had also materials developed such as conference proceedings, but also trainings were done at the same time. So it was actually an activity which was immediately impactful in terms of delivery of the program. Just to give you more of a concrete example. Maybe, and that's a bit underwhelming, to be honest, I looked at which activities have been assigned to FRIEND Water so far. And I think this is an underrepresentation of the reality, because I think there's many more activities that FRIEND has been involved in and that has not necessarily been allocated or attributed to FRIEND. And it is just how it looks when you do the reporting, your activities get automatically added to a dashboard and allows us to really look at what is currently happening, not only for priority area or output level, but also in terms of the progress for the flagship initiatives, and potentially even at national level, we will probably produce something similar. So when people report activities, they will immediately be allocated to dashboard. So when people indicate an activity has been implemented under FRIEND, it would pop up on the dashboard and would be visible there. So I think this actually shouldn't be the most recent one, because I think we reported some activities also in Western Africa. Anyway, just to indicate that this is the kind of reporting exercise you can expect, where we look at the progress, how many member states have been benefiting, but also which priority areas have been affected, how many knowledge products have been produced, what type of knowledge products, scientific products have been produced, like papers and things like that. So we can really track how the flagship initiative, the activities of this Eurofriend part can really contribute to these overall objectives. Again, about how many people have been improving knowledge, how many female participants, so the gender balance has to be indicated, also how many youth. So when you do activities, try to also capture that information, because this is what we need to report back to our member states, which again are the ones who fund some of the activities we support. Again, how many training materials have been produced, what type of materials have been produced. So when you fill in the form, and there's many more options there, this is just the ones which have been reported so far. You can indicate, yes, we produced an online course, physical training, and this allows us to really keep track of the impact of your activities and what type of products that have been developed under FRIEND. Again, if there's any curriculum revised or any awareness raised, which is a bit more generic than capacity strengthened. So it can be a workshop where people were made aware of some of the initiatives, but not necessarily they had a learning activity in there. And also in some cases, there's work on transboundary, which can be important to highlight. Okay, I think I will stop here on that part. And just move maybe to the next part, which is about the new framework we are putting in place for flagship initiatives. So flagship initiatives have been emerging since, let's say, the 1980s, and from a FRIEND is one of the oldest, or is the oldest one around. But at some point also we want to make sure that the flagship initiatives play an active role in the phases of IHP, which are evolving. So how we make sure that the flagship initiatives also pick up on the priorities of the new phase. So that's also why we want every phase, we want to have the flagship initiative realigned with that phase, because priorities change. So also the flagship initiative should take into account those priorities, which they can co-negotiate with the member states when they get defined. So it's not like you're only on the uptake side, you're also on the definition side of things. And many of you have been active in defining the priorities for IHP 9 that I know of. So this is just to highlight that we have quite a few of them, of those water initiatives. And of course, FRIEND Water is one of our most respected and oldest one. And again, we want to invite all the flagship initiatives to revise their priorities and objectives in line with IHP 9. So how did that go? And we gave some guidance, and I think we're quite good on track, so I'm not going to go into details. But basically, we are looking at where are we, what are the gaps, the needs, the potential for change, but also how can we make more of a logical framework where we really move towards impact. So say, okay, at the end of this cycle, the Friend Water program will have produced these activities which lead to these outputs, and these outputs produce these outcomes, and based on those outcomes we hope to achieve this impact, right? So this is your logical framework, which is more and more the standard approach for project management in any way. And of course, you want to make sure we do a monitoring and evaluation, and of course, these workshops can be held also to understand where are we, what is moving, what are the new developments, and so that we can evaluate and adjust where necessary. But also talk about budgeting and see where we can strengthen our resource mobilization. Okay, so that's that. And I think in this case where we are with Friend, and I think Andrew can give us a bit more detail, so I'm not going to go into details here. But again, we during the Dakar Water Conference, we had a space where we started talking about what is it that we want Friend to focus on in this new phase, looking at first which activities, but then also how that can come towards outputs, outcomes, and impact, right? And so this has been revised, and I hope maybe Andrew, I'm not sure if you have an updated version, but this was the one we started with when we went to the meeting, and I think you can give a more updated version of that. So I'm not going to go through it. So basically, again, we have activities, we have expected results, outcomes, and impacts. We want to understand what a Friend Water initiative will deliver at the end of IHP 9, which is 2029. And again, this is just what we are expecting that comes out of this process, a strategy document, which is quite generic, a few pages, 10 pages max, but then also a detailed implementation plan, which again speaks to the same issues, activities with a certain timeline, but also who is responsible for implementing them, and then also to which output of UNESCO IHP will it contribute. So that is really the information we hope to collect in these discussions as well. And then maybe to finalize, I just want to highlight a few things that I thought was useful to share, because in fact, we see a lot of changes and priorities coming our way. And I just want to give you a bit of an update on that for those who haven't seen it before. So I think from our end, we see, especially in the sphere of Friend Water, some new developments, which probably would be useful if Friend could be a conduit and a facilitator for that, which is, I think, is the work on Internet of Things, where I think is a lot of emerging development that we could further streamline into the work of member states and activities scientifically and upscaling of that work. Also related to open hardware, which is a little bit linked to the previous one. I think there's a lot of activities happening in that space where the work of Friend, which is about monitoring, also can be quite essential. Another one is about citizen science. I think it's also a key element where a lot of activities are happening and where I see a space for Friend to work on. So certainly I think there we could see if that's an activity that Eurofriend also wants to be involved in. And maybe also looking at indigenous and local knowledge content of that. A special area of work we have been supporting, we have, of course, have the UNESCO recommendation on open science, and for hydrology, this means if you want open hydrology or open science for hydrology, what does it mean? What do we need to do differently to make that more streamlined in our work? So certainly that's also an area of work where I think Friend has a role to play, specifically around data collection, open data, open platforms, and so on. Another area of work, I think, which is emerging very strongly is artificial intelligence. And I think a lot of things are happening here where, with, of course, your help also, we made this survey on AI and machine learning uptake in hydrology. Where are we? Where are people standing in terms of AI for hydrology? Is there opportunities for understanding where it can be useful, where is it a bit not less useful? We're doing a mapping exercise, especially on that, to see where AI can support hydrology. We're also envisioning an AI seminar later this year. We still have to devise if that's going to happen in 2024 or 2025, but it will happen. Also, an online training course is probably needed. And also just to highlight that UNESCO has taken on board the role of coordinating a larger initiative on AI for the Planet Alliance, which is also teaming up with the Microsofts and OpenAI entities of the world. Because of course they're also quite important in this space. AI, you need a lot of resources for it. So we also identifying entry points to link up with those initiatives. So just to highlight that this is certainly an area of further development from our side. And I think with that, I'm just finalizing with one more slide, which is our revamped IHP Water Information Network System, which we are rolling out. And I think also there is a space to team up very closely with FRIEND to see how we can make sure that FRIEND water data and initiatives are tightly integrated into the IHP WINS system, which is about sharing data, but also about capacity building and also making sure that the information is actionable. So I think these are just key elements, I think, that are quite relevant also for FRIEND. I think with that, I think it's stop here, and I'm happy, of course, to answer any questions specifically to this one. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for this invitation to present a bit the FRIEND water program a bit more generally. So I'll just move this on the side. I'm Andrew Ogilvie. I'm a researcher at IRD in the Geo Research Unit, a researcher in hydrology, and the FIGCC Chair since last year. So I'm just going to go over a bit the FRIEND activities because we might have a few people who are less familiar with FRIEND. We hope to encourage some new members during this during the session, but also over the recent years and the future years. Present a bit the FRIEND Secretariat and present the FRIEND strategy under IHP 9. So just a little background on FRIEND Water. As mentioned, it's an IHP flagship initiative. It was indeed established in 1985, making it the oldest, starting with the Eurofriend at the time. So it's like many other flagship initiatives like World Large Rivers or GWADI, with whom FRIEND also collaborates. It's one of the most cross-cutting flagship initiatives in the sense that it started with a focus on data and flow regimes, but it covers a wide series of topics from data collection and sharing, but scientific cooperation overall, river basin hydrology issues, multi-scale, water-scale processes, and obviously also has quite a strong capacity building and water education component and link with UNESCO. So it's organized in regional programs. We have obviously the Eurofriend, the oldest, and we have the Mediterranean Friend. We also have the particularity that some countries, such as France, are situated in both groups. We have the Latin America and Caribbean, Amigo, Southern Africa, and West and Central Africa. We also have the Asian Pacific, which goes all the way to Oceania. And at one point, we also had the Hindu Kush. So the groups have evolved over the different phases. So we had Hindu Kush at the beginning of the last phase. It got integrated in 2018 into Asian Pacific. And we also had the Nile and the Congo groups. In the future phase, we've had discussions with the coordinators of these groups. Nile was quite a small program in the sense of the number of people involved and the number of activities. Congo, we had similar issues, and so the idea going into the next phase is to regroup, so to have the Hindu Kush, as I mentioned, in Asia Pacific, the Congo integrating the West and Central Africa group, and to create an East and Southern Africa group, which encompasses both Southern Africa and the Nile activities. This is also mostly to have a kind of critical mass, both in terms of people in the network, activities, and also to try and leverage funds more successfully. So in terms of activities, FRIEND is essentially a network, and so we try and develop research collaboration through various events. There's a number of workshops and trainings, obviously on data sharing, on modeling, but also on some wider issues such as integrated basin management, but also on some topics such as water quality and emerging pollutants. There's a series of conferences, both regional conferences, obviously, but also cross-region conferences and then global conferences. So in the cross-regional conferences, there's quite a few that have taken place on the African large river basins. The latest one was in 2021 in Cotonou. A number of sessions, notably at EGU, at the IHS conferences. So we need to discuss in the coming months also what events we can plan for the 2025 IHS in Rocky. And then the Global Friend Conference every 4 years. So these activities during the last kind of phase, 2014, 2022, gathered around 800 participants. So I'll just go back a little bit on the latest event that gathered the Friend, well, the most important activity, I guess, in the last year of Friend, the global conference, which occurred in Senegal, in Dakar. So it's happens every 4 years. The previous one was in Beijing. We had 5 scientific themes. They're mentioned here on the right. And what's interesting is we have the key ones such as bridging data knowledge and hydrology, or climate change and water resources, some on spatial hydrology and large rivers management, but also we had a number of abstracts submitted which were on wider themes, including eco-hydrology, including groundwater, and then including also quite a few issues related to socio-hydrology and interdisciplinary approaches. Global conferences also, we try and always keep an element of training. So we had trainings on early warning systems, on hydrometry during the conference. And the 10th Global Friend Conference should take place in 2026 if we go back to the previous timeline, or 2027. And we want to change the approach in the sense that we'll probably have a call where we want institutes and countries to submit a detailed proposal, which will then be evaluated, and the conference will be attributed on that basis. In terms of publications, each of these conferences has generally led to what were previously the Red Books and now the proceedings of the IHS. So there was one for the China conference, one for the Cotonou conference. And so we're putting together the proceedings, well, right now the contract anyway, for the proceedings of the Dakar conference. So we're going through the contract with Copernicus. We hope to be able to open the platform soon. So it's 6-page publications. And obviously with the support, in this case, strong support from the International Center for Water Resources and Global Change in Germany. In terms of publications, again, over the last 8 years, there was a total of 353 papers in the index journals. Quite a few of those were from the Eurofriend group, and over 1,000 publications and communications more widely. So just to give a little background a bit on the structure of Friend, so obviously we have contacts in the Division of Water Sciences, notably Enio Mishra, Kun Verbies, but also Rita Martellera, who's very active. And what's changed since last year is that Friend now has a new secretariat. So it's the ICIREWARD Center in Montpellier, which is a UNESCO Category 2 center, headed by Eric Servat and with several of his staff. Then there's the FIGCC, which is the coordinating committee, which I chair, which I've taken over from Gilles Mahé. We then have a number of regional and deputy coordinators. So these are currently being renewed, and so we're finalizing some of these appointments. IHS is also present in the FIGCC and in all the several of the Friend activities. So we have the Jean-Marie Kileshi Onema, who's taken over from Christophe Kudenek. And then one of the issue that we want to put forward as well is the scientific advisors. We We've recruited a few more thematic coordinators, and we want to ideally have more thematic coordinators to try and make linkages between activities in the different groups. But I'll come back to that a bit when we talk about the strategy. So just to talk about briefly about UNESCO, the ICIREWARD Center. So it's a center that was created, I say, in 2020 and became the Secretariat for FRIEND last year. It gathers 17 research laboratories and 13 institutions based in Montpellier and the area as far as Nîmes and Perpignan, and gathers 400 scientists and around 150 PhD students. So now I'll move towards the FRIEND strategy. So as Koen mentioned, we were trying to update and align the strategy with IHP 9 objectives and the 5 priority areas that Koen discussed before. So obviously the scientific research, the area 1 where we have most activities, area 3 also some activities related to data knowledge. And then area 2, 4, and 5, we have some activities, but it's a question also of identifying what focus we put in terms of the reporting, but I'll come back on that. So to update this strategy, we took a tiered approach. We started off looking at all the reports and outputs and publications from the FRIEND Water Program, notably the report which you see here. The FRIEND Secretariat produced a kind of synthesis to try and find some indicators. We then had some meetings with IHP and FRIEND staff over the last year. Then we had a meeting with FIGCC in Dakar, and then an IHP 9 workshop in Dakar as well. So below you see just some of the statistics that came out of this exercise, where we have some stats on the number of, we have this for all the different areas. We see obviously a lot in scientific research, some on data knowledge, less on governance or on water resource management. But obviously that's a very partial view based on what we could find in some of the publications and what we know of the network. And so we wanted to have the workshop to basically adjust and improve on this. And so in Dakar, we had a one-day workshop where we had two sessions, one brainstorming on FRIEND water activities, and then another one working on defining IHP 9 milestones for FRIEND water, with a series of post-it exercises and then plenary exercises. And so based on this, we now have this theory of change, which comes back to what Koen pointed out before. So this has been updated. It's still not finalized, and I'll mention after we're still going to be working on this with the regional coordinators and the thematic coordinators. But so the idea is to have basically four main pillars. One pillar here, which is relating to water resources, data in a large sense. So data collection and sharing. We have all the monitoring in terms of experimental basins, but also data rescue activities. We have included in this other activities such as Earth observations, all the remote sensing, and in the sharing of it, the open access side, so open access platforms. We also include citizen science questions here. Koen touched on it before. It's something we feel FRIEND has a role to play in it, but it's not necessarily something where we have a strong background or experience in it neither. So we need to probably have it in the strategy as something that we want to evolve, but not necessarily be too much in a leadership position on these kind of questions. The other aspect then is global change. So global change impacts on hydrological regimes and their extremes, floods and droughts, all the way to, so from the research side, but all the way into support also to operational aspects with early warning systems. And this is where there was some discussions as to whether we include some outputs in in section 4 or 5, which relate to governance, but I think it's the same. FRIEND has really more of a scientific role to play. And the indicators in IHP 9 includes this outreach of and dissemination and capacity building as well. And I think some of the outputs in 4 and 5 are much more on the direct implementation of these kind of tools. Then we have the pillar 3, which is more on water society interactions, water management, integrated water resource management, nexus questions, including some of the socio-hydrology, and again, going all the way to stakeholders with decision support systems as well. And then the pillar 4, which is more on educational aspects and interdisciplinary programs and diplomas. So the stage we're at now is that we're basically translating that into the log frame, the implementation plan. So this is an example of some of the inputs that we got from the workshop that we still want to go back to the groups to make sure that we have all the information, that we can also summarize, synthesize, group together some activities and have one designated leader for some of these activities. And so we're going to be sending that out probably next week to the regional coordinators, and we want to finalize this to be able to present it at the IHP Council in June 2024. And this needs to be obviously written up a couple of months before that. So we're in the finalizing stage of this. And so just to finish, just a couple of points in terms of the way forward for FRIEND. I think in the coming few years up to 2029, we would really want to work with the regional and the new thematic coordinators. We also now have the support of a whole executive secretariat to work on fostering interactions between regional groups. I think that's one of the somewhat weaknesses. We have a lot of interesting activities across continents, but not always working together. Obviously, there's funding issues as well related, but we'd like to try and find ways to increase that sharing. We also want to increase the visibility of the program, starting with the website, which is currently being developed. We also would like to update the database of members. And then there's all the recording and reporting. So as Kun showed, we haven't yet started really reporting the activities. We first want to have the strategy and identify which milestones we're reporting against, and then we want to use the Secretariat to act as a centralizing the input from the different groups and facilitate some of this reporting, and also think about how we can group requests from different groups to try and leverage wider funding opportunities. So I think I'll stop there for now.
I come from the second UNESCO center, which is related to FRIEND Water. Nearly since the beginning, I mean, FRIEND Water is older than our center. It's a ICWRGC. It's really a weird acronym, sorry for that. But we have this year our 10th anniversary, and it's not so easy to change an acronym. But the written name is more intuitive, I think. It's International Center for Water Resources and Global Change. And that is maybe already from this title, you see our link and also commitment to FRIEND, but not only FRIEND, but also I will speak a little bit about international data centers, which we do operate, and how we also want to link this flagship initiative with UNESCO strategy, but also with operational hydrology in terms of also global data. So next slide is coming here. A little bit about our strategy. I don't want to go too much into the text right on the right-hand side, but what you also can maybe read in the first mission statement, we provide global data, scientific products, and capacity building activities as a key contact to selected UN water programs. That is where we stand for. It's not only UNESCO, but it's also WMO and the Environmental Program of UN. of the UN where we are working too. We work in science, we work in operations, and with operations we mean the global data centers, and we do also give some policy advice, mostly in the phenomenons around that the freshwater quality and freshwater availability is changing, maybe due to climate change or to anthropogenic change. A little bit a similar picture maybe, some with our, let's say, key activities. And here in the bottom left corner, you see already Eurofriend, you see the International Initiative for Water Quality, you see the International Sediment Initiative and others, so all things which are related more or less to UNESCO. But we see friend waters, of course, also on this edge, no, between maybe within science, but also beyond science, no? Also what Koen and Andrew have shown you in previous slides, I would say. So maybe some of the outputs or some research what we are working on right now. We have a project which is called the Outlast. Here we develop an operational multi-sectoral global seasonal drought hazard forecasting system. And this is should be connected then to the hydrological status and outlook system of WMO. So here we really take models from researchers, try to operationalize them. We learn here also a little bit that, of course, and that is what you know, or what is intuitive maybe, but which causes some certain issues if you speak about operationalization, maybe also related to IT security and training and things like that. That models or software or whatever for products from research is on really various kinds of different levels. And if you want to have an operational system, you have to align those levels a little bit, no? Maybe some about our regional focus. We are working in Sub-Saharan Africa, in Saskal. So we have two also German-funded big initiatives for water security and climate and land use changes in South Africa and Western Africa, but also a new focus area in Central Asia. In all areas, we work on data and information exchange for integrated water data management for climate observations, but also for, let's say, for the other end of this value chain from observations to products and services like drought forecasting systems or any other early warning systems. Coming to data. This is a map from the global run of data centers. Maybe you know that kind of map. Blue colors means rather up-to-date observations are exchanged. Red color means latest data submission was in the 80s. So let's say before or in that year where we founded Eurofriend and the Friend Water Initiative. No? And you see that is a picture from today, not from today, but from January this year. We have to improve, and we really stick in a dilemma because we are not improving so well, which is how is it needed. We have the global change. The stakeholders in that countries with the red dots on orange dots need the data themselves. They sometimes have it, they sometimes don't share it. But due to sharing, you can also, of course, develop research products which can be then later on finds a way into operational service in terms of operating or early warning systems. So that is the situation. We do operate a lot of data centers in Germany, like the global run of data centers, the International Soil Moisture Network, and the German Water Data Center. So not in Germany, but in our institution together with the DFG, so our host institution. But there are several others for lake observations, for precipitation, for agricultural water use, for the World Glacier Monitoring Systems, and others which are more or less related and working under the auspices of the one or the other UN organization. And we try with the coordination of the circle, which we call the Global Terrestrial Network of Hydrology, which is coordinated also by our center, to bring that data better together. And all of the data we have issues. No, the data are really wanted and needed, but not really openly shared. We know different reasons for that. And we do also observe and decline. So what Koen has said, maybe to work also maybe with new strategies, new data sets like citizen science, but also really try to incorporate more research data is one way to close this data gap. I will skip that. That is how the data centers looks like. But if you go to the website, which I've shown in before, I will put it in the chat as well, gtnh.info, you have the way to all the data centers. We have also some, some challenges, and that is maybe also important for Friend Water. That is a third part, point here, bullet point here. Many expert groups working on different water cycle components. So it's really, we are still a little bit in silos, no? And we have to overcome the silos a little bit more. And I think also here, Friend can help. And this is not also only for the water quantity part, but also for the water quality part important. And with the global data centers and the work we also contribute to the, let's say, the big international reports like the State of the Global Water Resources Report or the Global Climate Observer System Implementation Plan and others. And yeah, I think that is what we shall continue. And also with your help, with a friend help, we can improve the system quality here. Maybe then a little bit back to UNESCO. UNESCO IHP, we have the strategic plan with its 5 priority areas. Koen has written down already and presented them. We are, from our center, working as a one output lead in this priority area 3 about bridging the data and knowledge gaps. And if you look on this different aspects in this priority area 3. So we are leading this comparing and validating open access data on water quantity, quality, and use. But there are also others. No? And if you only read this yellow things correctly, collect, analyze, interpret, exchange data, establishment of harmonized experimental basins, scientific tools for data processing. This is all something which is also found its way, let's say, in the IHP, in the Friend strategy, as it was shown by Andrew. No? And so here it's really the link also to that priority area. And we, of course, want to also see that. There's support not only by Friend, but as said by the Global Data Centers World. We had on each EU level, we had a European Vision for Hydrological Observations. Last year, there was a big conference, and we have, of course, IHS as well, working in that sector. And we really try to bring them all together. And this is my last slide here. Also the let's say the vision for Eurofriend, we want to revitalize our working package 1, which was a European Water Archive. The service was completely taken over already 10 years ago by the Global Runoff Data Center. But as shown, we have to understand on a holistic way the entire water cycle. So it's not only discharge. It's soil moisture, precipitation, other variables are really important as well. We want to bring them together, and we have a lot of observations, no? Not only in Friend, but we have in UNESCO this eco-hydrology part with their basins. We have the Euro-Mediterranean network of representative basins, for instance. We have the HELP initiative and others. And that will be the task for the next coming of years, to bring that colleagues together with a Friend community exchange, how to bridge these gaps between data and knowledge. Thank you.
I'm just gonna present a bit more about the Eurofriend program. So Eurofriend is the oldest regional group that started, and it started in 1985. The group includes 31 European countries, which are gathered around the UNESCO Centre, so the ICIREWARD, where Stefan is based, and the ICIREWARD, where Ando is based, for instance, today, so we have 2 representatives. The Eurofriend regional group is fully aligned with the strategic plans outlined by the NINS phase of the UNESCO International Hydrological Program, so the IHP 9, which we've been learning a bit more about today, and also the World Meteorological Organization Hydrological Research Strategy. Following this year restructuring, the Eurofriend activity will now be called by me and Stefan. The activities will be mainly structured around 4 working groups. So it's working group 1 on hydrological observation and data, a working group 2 on understanding and enforcing management of low flow and drought, and working group 3 on understanding and predicting large-scale changes and variation in hydrological characteristic. And a new working, so the first 3 were improvement or renaming of existing project as part of Eurofriend, and the working group 4 is new and will be on translating scientific insight into operational use to really align better with the IHP requirement as well. And in addition to these 4 groups, there will be still transversal working group like we had in the last year about machine learning and compound hydrological risk, but I will come back to this later. So the working group 1, which is also named Closing the Data Knowledge Gap, will be led by Stefan Dietrich and Simon Mitchell. So the working group 1 will harness the revitalized effort of Eurofriend Project 1, which was called European Water Archive, but will now broaden its scope on a global scale to include a wider range of hydrological and socio-hydrological variables. So this initiative will contribute to GRDC and the GTN hydrology network that was presented just before by Stefan, and will foster the connection with other initiatives like eco-hydrology, helping catchment, or the IHS hub as well. So this group will also strongly collaborate with other initiatives like the Robin team at the CH in the UK, which is also involved in the other working group too. So if you wish to learn more about the working group 1 and would like to contribute, please contact Stefan. So you got his email here. You just have to note it and send him an email. Working group 2 on understanding and enforcing management for low flow and drought will be led by Jamie Hannaford and Lucy Barker at UKCH. So the working group 2, like the low flow group before, will aim to pioneer innovative methodology for studying hydrological drought and conduct comprehensive analysis of water management solution to mitigate the impact of future drought across Europe. So this group has always existed in Eurofriend, so there were already some output like this paper from Kirsten Stahl and the low flow group in 2020. This group is closely linked to the European Drought Center as well. And if you wish to learn more about this project and would like to join it, please contact Jamie or Lucy using their respective email address. And when there will be activities related to this group, they will be contacting you. Or if you are interested in bringing some questions and some activities to this group, feel free to contact them and see how to arrange it. Working group 3, which is on large-scale variation in hydrological characteristic, will still be led by me, but of course now we'll need to have some help. And the moment we're thinking about Wilson Chan from CEH, we still need to agree on this with him, but he's here in a meeting today and he's enthusiastic about it, but want to learn a bit more about the role. So the working group 3 is set to spread effort in detecting and comprehending both observed and future trend in variation in hydrological characteristic at the continental scale, so for Europe, but also at the global scale. So there are different research priorities, which maybe I'm not going to develop much today because I think we're quite limited in time. But if you wish to contribute to this group, please feel free to contact me, and I will first add you to our mail list, and then every time there is activity related to the group, you will be invited. Then the new working group 4, on translating scientific insight into operational use, will be led by Nila Dugulu and Luna Bharati. So the working group 4 will undertake effort to develop and investigate and explore methodologies and tools for translating scientific findings into actionable insight for decision makers and practitioners. Again, I'm not going to go into all the detail, but if you wish to learn more about this project, which is just starting as well, or would like to contribute, please contact Nilay and Luna. In the coming weeks, we will also try to have a meeting with all the lead and co-lead of the working group of Eurofriend to try to harmonize our initiative all together. And so in addition to this 4 working group, we will also be calling for transversal working group. So there is already some transversal working group that are active, mostly working group on machine learning, which was led by Nilay in the last 2 years, and in which we are currently running a survey on the perception of the water community of AI and machine learning, which maybe I can share in the chat, or maybe Nilay, you can share in the chat for everybody. And there are another group on compound hydrological reach, which was led by Kwok Panchen at Bristol University. So this group will still exist because there are still some activities that are ongoing and we need to finish them. But we welcome new ideas for transversal working groups. So I was talking earlier with Andrew and Koen as well. It could also be activities that are direct requirement for the IHP, and but that like the Eurofriend group would be better placed to answer and develop. And but yeah, if you have any ideas, please contact me, and then we'll see if this fit with the main space of the IHP and with what we are targeting for the coming years. And then the 2024 online seminar training series. So the first session is today, but can see that we already have other seminars that are planned up to November now. Even for December, we have an idea, but hasn't been definitely agreed, so I'm not showing it now. So the next session will be on April 24th, and will be on reconstructing and reevaluating historical drought with Conor Murphy. And so there is a link here to register. Not sure you can click on it from the screen, but don't worry, I will share it in the chat after during the question and answer session. Then in May, we will listen to Flavio Lehner on climate change projections, their uncertainty, and the potential to reduce them. In June, we will be with Katie Fairchild to learn more about the recent advance in seasonal hydrological forecasting. In July, we will be with Abdou Kwaki on harnessing R and cloud for hydrology. So that will be really a training session. In September, we will have another training session with Thomas Recknagel on the hydrological modeling framework HydPy. And then in October, we don't have the specific date now, but we want to have a session on quality control of hydrological data. So we already have people that volunteer and we are enthusiastic to participate in this session, but we need to agree on the date, and we'll share the session later, the link to register to the session later. And in November, Stefan will be presenting something on research transfer into operation in hydrology, but we haven't agreed on a date yet, so we will communicate it later. But there is still some time. I guess in some way it's a bit pointless to share the registration link for November in March, so we can come back to this later. And then if you want to already save some date for the coming years and months, so next month at the EGU we'll have a splinter meeting for Eurofriend on a Monday between 7 and 8 in room 283. So feel free to come to this session. You will also have the chance to see our survey on machine learning, and you could potentially use this time to answer it also yourself at that time. And then we also plan an in-person meeting in Koblenz between the 1 and the 3 of July 2025. So there will be further communication about this as well in the coming months, but that's activities that are already agreed and planned. And that was it for my short presentation of Eurofriend today.